Welcome to the Health Channel, All Health All the Time. I'm Olga Villaverde, coming to you from the Baptist Health South Florida studios. You know, finding time to yourself can be challenging, but the importance of self-care comes with both physical and mental benefits. Joining us today to talk about this is Iana Sundari. Did I say that right? Yes, fantastic.
Hello.
Founder of Bliss Out Retreats. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I love that name, Iana Sundari.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Okay, so I know you work with holistic wellness, but before we talk about all that, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this field.
Well, I think I was I feel blessed to have had a mother who practiced yoga in her 20s and a father who had a very disciplined meditation practice. So I was raised between Harlem, New York and Yogaville, which is an ashram in Buckingham, Virginia. And I have been kind of practicing yoga and part of the wellness world since birth. In my early 20s, though, I worked in event planning and in public relations, and I worked for the NFL and a few record labels, and eventually got to a place in my career and in my life where I wanted to go back to what I had learned as a child. So I went from there and I began to study to become a yoga teacher, which led me to be a birth and death doula, so helping women deliver babies and helping people die with a bit more dignity and grace. And I began to work with caregivers and grievers and then founded Bliss Out Retreats.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know we're going to talk about Bliss Out Retreats and how wonderful it is and how it helps others. I do want to personalize, if you don't mind. You did mention that you had in the past tense.
Yes.
You've been through a lot. I read here at the age of 21, you watched your mother battle breast cancer, and she passed in 2007. My deepest condolences.
Thank you.
And then 4 years later, your father passes from brain cancer.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot.
It was a lot. My mother was diagnosed for the first time when I was in high school and the second time when I was a junior in college. And I came home and took care of her until she passed in 2007. And my father was diagnosed kind of right in the midst of that and passed in 2011. How
did your closeness with your family contribute to healing and then working with others?
I think that, it's impossible to go through something like that without it changing you.
Absolutely.
I was a caregiver for 10 years before I buried them, and I think I began to look at how we die differently. I began to look at how we live differently. It became really important for me to look at the mark I had left and to become intentional about how I was going to spend my time here while I was alive.
All right, and this hour, it's all about self-care, which is so important for all of us. And no matter someone's background or schedule, it can be easy to overlook self-care as an important piece of wellness.
I found that when I wasn't taking care of checking the emotions of being anxious or nervous or stressed out, that became mirrored back to me in my relationships. And that if I took a step to realize that when I took care of myself and I was happier, the people around me wound up happier. And if that's the reflection I wanted to see, then I become very intentional about making it a part of every single morning.
And what would you say is the relationship between self-care and wellness? Or do they both go hand in hand?
I think there's a direct correlation between self-care and wellness. I think if you're looking at it on like a super basic level, right? Like when I get nervous, my nose sweats, right? It's probably doing that right now. When I'm anxious, my stomach hurts, right? If I were to let those things continue, it doesn't stop with the nose and the stomach, right? The rest of the body begins to break down. So physically, if I want to feel well, then I need to keep those emotions in check. I think if you're looking at on a grander scale, self-care is about living well, right? If I am making the decision to take moments to breathe and to slow down and to pay attention to what I want out of life and what brings me joy, I wind up living a life that's beautiful and fulfilled, and that is wellness.
There you go. Now, I do have some tips for self-care that I'd like to share with our viewers. It's from the Centers for Disease Control.
Wonderful.
One is avoid drugs, which is a no-brainer, and alcohol. Find support. How?
I think, one of the things I always like to remind my students is like, there's no award given for doing all of this by yourself. Like, you need to connect with other people. I think, one, you have to become comfortable, and this takes time and work, but in asking people for what you need.
Agreed.
I think the other side of it is understanding that we all need people, and you're not required to be a martyr or a superwoman or superman.
Also connect socially, which it kind of goes hand in hand with that. Find support. Take care of yourself. Very important to do so. We don't have enough time sometimes. Stay active. How do you do that? How
do I stay active? Wow. For me, it's important for me to set up rituals for myself. So my morning includes movement. My morning includes making that time for myself, because the day can get away from you and life can get away from you. So I think it's important to, even if it's a matter of getting up in the morning, swinging your legs over the bed and wiggling your toes and stretching, that's a moment of pausing. So I think, I do that. I also practice yoga every day. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge gym person. But for me, I found what felt good for me. So I think it's important to pay attention to what works for you. Running might be somebody else's jam, but might not be yours.
That's my jam.
Yeah, see, some people love it. It stresses me out, right? And we're choosing things that don't stress you out.
And yoga stresses me out. Go figure. Because I'm very flexible. I was a gymnast, and I've tried so much to love it, but it stresses me out because of just the silence and the holding the position. So I need more like the activity. But again, that's my mojo.
But I think that's, one of the things I always say about yoga also is, you have to find the style that works for you, right? And I think it's important knowing that there are so many different styles, and there are some that move really quickly, so your brain doesn't have to do the whole stop thing. And then there are some disciplines that require a bit more introspection.
But whatever you choose.
Whatever you choose.
Anything is better than nothing.
Yes.
And it all helps with the, not just self-care, the wellness, but just the stress that we're under today, right?
Absolutely.
In what way?
I think it's important to look at everything. When you create a habit, that becomes a cue, right? So if you think back to like research and experiments that have been done, like Pavlov's dog, the idea of ringing the bell and that makes you hungry, right? If you think about the idea that if every time you're stressed, you take a moment to take a breath or to take a pause, that becomes the cue to your nervous system, to your internal clock to reset. If you think about then that each time you are stressed, that your response becomes a slowing down rather than a reaction of exacerbating what is sometimes something that you can deal with a little bit better with some clarity and some calm.
Fantastic stuff. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I have a great question for our viewers.
Okay.
How about an exotic retreat abroad for self-care? I'm liking that.
Yeah.
We're looking at the Bliss Out retreats coming up. I even like the word bliss. Who doesn't? You're watching the Health Channel, all health all the time on South Florida PBS. If you have a question for our expert, please give us a call. The number is right there, 855-796-4475. And remember, you can take the Health Channel wherever you go by visiting our website, allhealthtv.com. You can watch the Health Channel live stream or check out videos from previous episodes. If you have a question for her, she is the founder of Bliss Out Retreats. There is the number that we'd like to provide you. Give us a call, 855-796-4475. Again, that's 855-796-4475. So imagine achieving mindfulness through immersion. Try traveling to Costa Rica, Morocco, Bali. These are all destinations of Bliss Out retreats. So this is where I'm very interested. Can you give us an overview and kind of like a background of how these retreats got started?
Sure. I think I founded Bliss Out Retreats to create trips that I really wanted to go on. I mean, I think that was the truth. I had gone on a lot of retreats myself. And I found the spiritual programming to be incredible. But I think my background in event planning and hospitality and service started to creep in. I started to look at these trips as a way to travel with purpose. And that was that if you had 10 days out of a calendar year to go on a vacation, you wanted to come back and feel like you had been fed. And that was fed spiritually and fed with this amazing travel and opportunities that you wouldn't normally be able to take advantage of. That you were paired with fantastic teachers, and that the detail to service and to the food and to the wine was as important as it was to your yoga and your meditation and your education.
All right, so I have a few questions. First of all, I love the name. Where did it come from?
So if you hear words sometimes in yoga and people are like, what language is that? It's Sanskrit, which is one of the oldest languages in the world. And so Sundari was my Sanskrit name, and that was given to me by Swami Satchidananda at birth. He named my mother Anandi, and so that means bliss. And so this organization, this company started as a way kind of in memoriam to her. And also that it's what I hope my guests feel like, you know, when they're on trips with us, is that you're blissed out, that you are taken care of from start to finish, and that you come back feeling rested and feeling renewed.
All right, so how many retreats are there, and where do you go besides, I mentioned Morocco, Costa Rica?
So we have 2 that are available for booking right now. We have Bali, which is coming up at the end of June, and Costa Rica is at the end of September. We also offer something called Bliss Out Journeys, and so that came into play for people who aren't able to travel with us for the amount of time we go for, or they're just not able to make that investment at that time. So what we offer is for $25 a day, you're able to go to our website, pick a city, pick a location, pick the dates you want to travel, and we customize a retreat for you during that time.
Okay, so talk to me about what one can expect, let's say in the one in June, the one that you obviously have to pay to go.
Yes.
And it's for like 10 days, you said, right?
So it's a 7-day trip in Bali. It includes extra days for travel, so that's why we say it's a 10-day trip. And so for that trip, you are escorted from the airport to this beautiful retreat center. We have things like Balinese temple blessings. We have rice paddy walks. There's a sunrise meditation on a volcano. We are taking art classes with the villagers. We're taking cooking classes. We're involved with a charity, as we always do with each trip. All of your food, all of your meals, spa treatments, 2 yoga classes a day, meditation, a daily discussion. What we do is really try to create a program that revolves around what the theme of our retreat is. And so for Bali, we're setting the idea of being content with where we are in life and learning how to find contentment in your day-to-day.
And who goes on these retreats?
We've been really, it's been amazing, because I think when we first started, it was like, who is going on these retreats, right? And it's wound up being that we have 30-year-olds and 60-year-olds on the same trip. We have beginners and teachers on the same trip. I think what is important for me as a teacher and as the founder of this is that people understand that the physical postures are such a small part of it, and that you're going to learn something deeper than how to stand on your head, right? So the people that come with us on our trips are usually people that are interested in the philosophy and interested in more than just the physical practice. They're also travelers who really enjoy having somebody make all of those tedious decisions for them and create programming and take care of things from flights to meals to...
And what are the, I guess, the ultimate goals of these retreats?
I think they're twofold. I think it's really important for me that people leave remembering what it feels to feel good. I think that most of us are operating on autopilot, and there's something to be said for taking the time to wake up slowly and to eat without looking at your phone and to meet strangers and make eye contact and ask questions again, because we don't do that anymore. So I think for me, that's a goal. It's to remind people what that feels like. I think the other part of it, if we can teach you, if our teachers, if we can have you leave where you feel like you've been equipped with ways to better handle your life and the stress that comes with your life, then we've done our job. I wish I was a magician and I could make stress disappear, but that doesn't happen. So I think it's more about, have you learned how to handle it when it comes at you?
All right, we're going to continue the conversation. Just a quick reminder, if you'd like to give us a call, let me show you the toll-free number, 855-796-4475. Once again, 855-796-4475. We're standing by and would love to hear from you. I can imagine also in the retreat, being all these exotic places.
Yes.
I mean, Bali's beautiful, and being around nature as well. How does that help in that connection?
I think, unfortunately, most of us have become pretty attuned to our phones and to our computers.
You think?
And and while I think, one of the reasons why, we have things like yoga classes and workshops and ways that you can find peace at home is because you're not able to take this big trip, right? The idea of this is that you are being intentional about, I'm going to turn the world off, and I'm going to go someplace a little bit more far-flung, and I'm going to be among trees and water and fresh air, and there's going to be space, both in physical and in mental, of being able to process what's happening back at home.
Very important to do that. Now, connecting with nature could help someone be more mindful. And let's go through some of the benefits of being mindful, and it really does improve your physical health. I mean, that's the first one.
Absolutely. I think that when you can become, being mindful, sometimes people have a problem with what that phrase actually means, and they're confused about what that means. And I think it's really just about being aware, right? So if I'm not aware of my body, and I'm not aware of the things I'm eating, what triggers bad responses in the body, what people that come around me trigger bad responses in the body. If I'm not aware of those things, and I'm just operating on this day-to-day autopilot way, then I'm not conscious of, this food makes me feel good, this movement makes my back feel better, this meditation makes my brain slow down so my face looks lighter and it glows. I mean, there are reasons why physically you begin to see the impact of what you're doing internally.
I'm just curious with these retreats, and I'm not saying this is everyone, but
yes.
Do you get, how many people normally go?
We only allow 10, and allow sounds like a weird word. I find that more than 10 feels a bit like a field trip. I think that what you are asking people to do, I think it's a big step for a lot of people. It's a big step for people to travel alone sometimes. It's a big step to take time away from their kids and their families. And I find that group allows for intimacy and for vulnerability for people to get to a place of finding some healing and some respite from life.
And so I'm curious, of those 10, do you get a group that, this would be me, do you get a group that attends, and first day they're like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? Why did I come? I can't do this. That kind of reservation, hesitation, and then maybe after day 2 or 3, they're like, yeah, it's good.
It's hard for people to slow down. It's funny because I think a lot of yoga teachers know this. The most uncomfortable thing for people in a yoga class is Shavasana, right? Is the last pose of laying on your mat and you're not moving and your teacher's asking you to breathe. People freak out. They
that
spend
would
the
just
whole
drive
time
me bananas.
Oh yeah, like they're fidgeting and they're moving because all of a sudden you're being asked to not distract yourself with something else. The same thing goes when you go on a retreat. When you are at a retreat center, we don't choose big Vegas hotels. These aren't, big resorts. These are boutique centers and retreat centers where everyone's, very namaste and it's quiet and we have a ton of fun. But when your cell phone doesn't get service everywhere, and when you're asked to sit in silence and listen to a waterfall instead of Netflix, it freaks people out. By day 3, everyone's so happy, and usually at the end, people are like, I don't want to go back.
Look at that. Not surprised at all.
Feels good to feel good.
It feels good, absolutely. Gosh, if you have a question for Iana, give us a call at 855-796-4475. And remember, you can take the Health Channel wherever you go by visiting our website, allhealthtv.com. You can watch the Health Channel live stream, or you can check out videos from previous episodes. So this hour on Staying Healthy, we're talking about the importance of self-care. And part of self-care comes with finding a balance. So one way I know you do this is through yoga.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about it. So how is it that you started? Was it because of your mom? Was that because she was an avid yoga?
It was. I mean, she was, I have pictures of my mother practicing with me in her belly, so I've always been practicing. I went to yoga sleepaway camp as a child.
Really?
I did. It was yoga sleepaway camp, yeah, in Yogaville.
In Yogaville? How cute is that?
So yeah, I've been practicing my whole life. Now, that being said, there were major points of breaks. I think throughout junior high school and high school, yoga was not what it is today, where it's like super trendy to practice. I was definitely like the little weirdo doing down dog. So I didn't do a lot of it as a child. Once I got to like high school, and then in my 20s is really when you start to realize you need some other stuff to help you out.
That's right. And it's really evolved because yoga started as a spiritual practice thousands of years ago. And now people are really doing it because of all the physical benefits as well. Let's talk about the physical benefits. I mean, I know I have a friend of mine. She's in great shape.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, girl, what are you doing? She's like, yoga.
Just yoga.
Yoga.
I think what we don't realize is like if you think about your cell phone, right, and how much time you spend like this, which then is causing you to do this, and how many people spend most of their day sitting in front of computers, you're causing a degeneration of the back. And I think there's so many people walking around with back pain. When you ask people in a yoga class, if you tried to sit up straight right now for 1 minute without ever slouching, how many of you would say like, oh, that hurts?
It hurts, absolutely.
Which is a little crazy. Like you're being asked to sit up straight and that hurts, but that's because the muscles in your back are no longer as strong as they need to be. So yoga really works on putting those muscles back in. It's working on addressing the curvature of the spine, which the body responds to what you tell it. So if you spend time doing this, it's how it will answer. To have a bad back throws off your hips, which then gives you knee problems.
That's right.
I mean, so yoga really works on balancing both sides of the body.
Strengthening that core, which
Absolutely.
is so important. To get a little more background on yoga, we have a few fun facts about yoga. I want to go through each of these because I think it's kind of cute. Starting with the meaning of the word yoga. Yoga means yoke or unite.
It does. It does. Sometimes people are confused about what yoga means. So it really is supposed to be looked at as the union between mind and body.
There you go. Many yoga poses are based on animals and nature.
Yeah, they're also based on like natural things that babies do. So if you think about if you've ever taken a yoga class when they have you lay on your back and hold on to your feet and they say happy baby pose.
Oh, that's
you
right.
think about what babies do, it's the same thing.
That's right. And then over 6 million people practice yoga. And I wouldn't be surprised if that number is even a little bit larger than that.
I would guess that it's probably higher than that.
That's amazing. Okay, real quick, again, a reminder to our viewers, if you'd like to give us a call and have a question for Iana about the retreat or yoga or mindfulness, there's our phone number, 855-796-4475, 855-796-4475. Let me share some information. The amount of adults and children using yoga in the last 5 years increased dramatically. Even kids are getting in on it now too, right?
I think what's interesting is that now meditation and yoga practices are being brought into the school, and it's one of the smartest things that I've seen happen so far in kind of the forward movement of how yoga is being accepted in mainstream society. If you think about what mindfulness is, you're teaching children how to problem solve. You're teaching them how to self-soothe. When you teach a child that instead of hitting or yelling, that they should learn what breathing is, when you teach them how to relax, when you teach them how to focus, you're watching kids produce better test scores and more, they're producing homework that's actually well thought out. You have classrooms that have better behavioral management. I think for teachers, it's been a blessing to teach a kid how to meditate.
Absolutely. And in that same survey, listen to this number here, about 94% of people practicing yoga do it for wellness reasons. So I would have thought probably for the physique, which is a great thing too, and the physical health, but they're doing it for wellness. So people are really getting more aware about this.
I think it's how it starts. I would assume that most people find yoga because they are searching for the physical aspect, which if that's what brings you into a class, then by all means go for it. I think it's usually because people are dealing with some sort of physical pain, and so they've been instructed now by doctors or physical therapists that yoga would be beneficial. Sometimes it's just because it's what your friend's doing, so you join a class. Sometimes it is because you saw someone who looks amazing and they tell you what they do and it's just yoga, and you're like, well, now I want to join. I think what happens is a domino effect, which is once you get onto your mat and you start practicing and you start seeing what happens to yourself when you start breathing and slowing down and meditating, when you remind yourself, like we said, what it feels good to feel good, how it feels good to feel good, I think that's when you start coming back for more than just the pose.
Absolutely. We have a list of some ways that yoga benefits the body. Let's talk about these. Obviously, the first one, it builds strength.
Yeah, it's interesting because so many people are surprised by the amount of strength yoga does put into the body. When you're asked to hold a pose for a minute and breathe, that is long.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. To have to use your body as resistance, if you're holding a plank pose, if you're holding down dog, which is, hands and feet on floor and tush in air, that requires shoulder strength and leg strength. And eventually you're rebuilding muscles in your body, some of which haven't been used in a while.
Mm-hmm. And of course, improves stamina. That's fantastic. And fosters mindfulness, which is good as well. It's only a win-win, to be honest.
Yeah, I think one of the super important topics on that, or the bullet points on that, was it increases flexibility. So many people say I can't go to yoga because I'm not flexible, which is no, yoga is what makes you flexible. You don't have to be flexible. In fact, most of us, I wake up in the morning and I can barely touch my toes. I'm tight. It takes me time. It's the same thing for anybody else.
Now, whether you practice yoga or not, they say meditation might be something to consider. Registered nurse and Health Channel host Henry Guzman explains why.
Let's also talk about some types of alternative medicine. We referred to them a little briefly. Let's talk about meditation. So I'm a New Yorker, and I always say I really need to find the time to meditate. You were just saying we never take the time to take care of ourselves, right? That's one thing on my list. Please tell me about meditation and why it's something all of us should embrace, whether we live here, anywhere, and regardless of our career. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so meditation, interestingly enough, is actually getting a lot of attention now because of a lot of the research that they're doing on it. So there's some solid research behind meditation and kind of how it works. So we won't get into the science of that. It's kind of boring, but what it does do is actually helps you, the idea behind it is that it helps you be in the moment, something we rarely do. We're constantly thinking about tomorrow, the future, what just happened, my job, I stink, whatever it is that's going through your mind at the time. So the idea behind meditation is basically be right here, right now. And as simple as that sounds, think about it. What is everybody thinking about right now? Probably 100 other things than what's happening right now. And it takes some time, it takes some practice, but literally 2, 3, 4 minutes a day can make an enormous difference in your life. The difference is not something so tangible that I can tell you you're gonna feel, ecstatic the next day. It's very, very subtle what's going on. Basically what's happening is you're starting to perceive your life in a different manner. And that's the beauty of it. And it's happening in a way that's almost hard to put into words. There are programs that you can go through. There's apps out there that can help you, do this. But it's really not as complicated as people make it out to be.
Yeah. So I was going to say, anybody watching who thinks, oh, it's too hard to meditate, I don't have time to meditate. Again, you just said it's really a few minutes a day, and maybe there isn't something tangible to describe, but it's again a better sense of well-being, and that's what we're looking at here: is all the pieces that fit into the well-being puzzle.
Absolutely.
I wrote down something Henry said, which I really liked, which was be right here, right now. I think that's so important because I tend to worry about tomorrow, and tomorrow's not even here, or next week, next month, and the list goes on. And actually the other day my mom was like, you've really got to just start thinking of today. And I had heard that before from her, but the way she said it, I kind of thought, or maybe because I'm 50 now, it kind of hit home that I realized she's right. Which is what Henry said, be right here, right now, be mindful of that.
Absolutely. It's so important. I think, you're not alone in that. I think so many people spend so much time planning for something or rehashing something that's happened or stressing about something they can't control anyway. And we are missing moments that pass. And I think it's why I am so passionate about this line of work and this career is because, in watching my parents pass, you learn how important this time is.
Right.
And that I can wake up tomorrow and be told something that changes the course of my life. And so it is imperative that I'm figuring out ways to be happy right here, right now, in this moment.
So important. All right, we're going to take a quick break. She also says something else to me. She said, remember that 90% of what you worry about never happens.
No, you're making it so much bigger than it probably is.
Yes.
It's like a big old dragon in your head.
That's right. All right, so my mom is very mindful. She meditates a lot. She's trying to help me. All right, so while self-care is important, where do you start? That's a great question. Ayanas shares her tips coming up. You're watching the Health Channel, all health all the time on South Florida PBS. If you have a question, please call in using the toll-free number right there, 855-796-4475. Maybe you'd like to share how you are mindful in your own life. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, you can take the Health Channel wherever you go by visiting our website, All Health, learning how to breathe. And that's a great point. That really helps with peace and meditation, doesn't it?
I think what's interesting is that we forget that like learning how to breathe is actually something you have to learn. Like most of us are walking around taking these breaths and they reside in the chest, which is actually pretty anxiety inducing. Purposeful breath work is learning how to breathe from your belly, which allows you to take a much longer, slower breath. And that requires practice. And I always like to say, like, imagine your belly like a balloon, and you can practice this in your bed if you feel like you wake up feeling anxious or like you're not able to catch your breath. And put your hands on your belly and imagine that it's a balloon, and as you inhale, lift the belly up towards the ceiling, right? Keep your hands on your belly. Inhale, make your balloon big. Exhale, make your balloon small, right? Inhale, make your balloon big. Exhale, make your balloon small. If it feels like your chest is moving and not your belly, then you need to know you need to work on your belly breath.
And that really helps, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, this is what we do all day. We walk around going, which is
I'm kind of going.
Yeah, it's what all of us do, right? It's strange and people find it hard to access that kind of breath, but I promise you, if you wake up feeling like that, that will get you back in a calmer headspace.
That's fantastic. Now, besides the breathing, so many people have so difficulty that they need more me time, right?
Yes.
Where do you start to get that me time?
So I think for me, right, it was very important that I realized that once my day starts, it's hard for me to kind of rein it back on. Now I need to figure out how to do something for myself. So the mornings I think are really, really important. And I know we have some action steps we can go through. But for me, it's like as soon as you wake up in the morning, breath work. Before I open my eyes, that is the first thing I do. And if it's just a matter of taking 3, then that's what I do.
And I think we have and by the way, I did want to thank Neri for giving us a call from Lauderhill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neri. And I'm going to practice that breathing too, by the way, Neri. We do have a graphic that I wanted to show our viewers, which talks about the steps for self-care. And the first one on that graphic was that morning breath work that you're talking about.
So my advice is when you wake up in the morning, before you reach the phone to check your Instagram, before you reach to read through your emails, before you run out of your bed to get things ready for the kids, is to close your eyes.
Or get that Cuban coffee.
To get that Cuban coffee. To put your hands on your belly and to close and do that belly breathing. Start your day a little bit more in tune.
Okay, and then there was spa time. What was that?
So I do not mean heading out to the spa.
I kind of figured. I liked it.
That'd be nice.
That'd be great.
But that's not what I meant. You can make your bathroom into a spa, and essential oils for me are key for this. So I'm not a big coffee drinker, though I love a good Cuban coffee every once in a while. It actually makes me a little jittery. So what I do is I do use eucalyptus oil or peppermint oil, and I go into my bathroom and I steam my shower, and I put a few drops on my shower floor, and that really turns my bathroom into this really beautiful pepperminty spa-like feel. It wakes me up. It makes me feel like I'm at a beautiful spa.
That's great.
It starts my day.
Which oil did you use again?
Eucalyptus and peppermint.
Both combined?
Sometimes combined if I feel like I need a bigger pick-me-up, sometimes just one. But I just steam my shower, few drops, get in there and take your shower, and the entire thing smells amazing.
So you just kind of put them on the floor?
Yeah, just put it on the floor.
And that's fantastic. I'm going to try that one.
Yeah.
Sacred space.
Yes, so this is a big one, and people feel like in order to have a spiritual practice, you need to have some shrine or some huge altar, and you don't. Right next to your bed could be a candle, right? And when you get out of the shower, light the candle. Make that part of the ritual. Make lighting a stick of incense, and you can keep that, on a dresser top. But if you have these little places where every day you get out of the shower and you light that candle, you light that incense, it's taking 20 seconds to pause again.
And that 20 seconds just can make such a huge difference,
it does.
right?
And smell is big, Like, to me, the smell of the oils, the smell of a candle, the smell of the eucalyptus, that's taking care of myself.
All right. And lastly, we have send love. Amor.
Yes. So, I think what I started doing is I would send a message to somebody that I loved, that I cared about first thing in the morning. And that was because when my day gets away from me and I don't reach out to my friends, and the older we get and the more responsibilities we have, the less we're able to see our friends, right? And I believe in connecting socially, as we talked about before. I believe in staying in tune with my network. And so I send a message out every single morning. And whether it's to a friend that says, have a great day, whether it's to somebody else that says, thinking of you right now, it's a beautiful way to send a ripple of love out, and that person writes you back and says, I love you, thank you so much, that just made my day. And that's a really nice feeling for myself, to be like, yeah, I just did something awesome for someone. But these are little things of making yourself feel good, making somebody else feel good. And I'm walking out of the door every day having had this great little startup.
And you could do that also with strangers, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you could be at Publix and send some love. How do you do that?
We have stopped making eye contact with people. Like, when you walk past someone, don't be afraid to be like, your dress looks awesome. Like, love your shoes, love your sweater. Like, your smile is so nice. Like, you never know when somebody's having a truly terrible day. Turning to somebody in an elevator and just saying, hi, how are you today? And then not looking back at your phone before they answer.
It's true.
It's like just taking time again.
What other, I guess, I want to talk about something that she's going to be embarking on April 1st. But before we do that, and it's so exciting. Wait till you hear what she's going to do. We only have about a few minutes left. But regarding wellness and holistic, any final tips for our viewers before we share your incredible journey coming up?
I think it's important to strive for balance and not perfection. And I think that part of what gets people in this cycle of, I'm not good at this, and so I'm going to stop. And it's like, there is no being good at this. There's no good at meditation. There's no good at yoga. There's no good at mindfulness. If you are taking 5 minutes out of your day to slow down and take care of yourself, you are doing better than the day before when you did nothing. And so for me, it's about just balance, right? Not perfection.
Exactly. Okay, so Iana is from New York, by the way, and she's lived in Miami for 5 years. But on April 1st, which is right there around my birthday, I'm going to think of you. Yes. Okay. She is leaving Miami, and she has, I believe, converted a school bus into a home.
Yes.
So explain this to us and where you're going.
So I don't know if our viewers are familiar with the tiny house community and the schoolie community. There are people that have been doing this, and so I was inspired by them. And it is to buy a school bus and to convert it into this really beautiful apartment. And I am driving around the country for 2 years with my husband, and I'm doing a wellness tour. So are hitting 18 cities in 18 months. We will spend some more time with family and friends along the way. And I'm going to be leading workshops and connecting with studios and leading free events and then also workshops.
Your first stop is Savannah?
First stop is Savannah, Georgia, and then we will be heading back down south. I'm following the sun. I do not do well with cold weather any longer. That's why I moved here.
I am with you on that.
Following the sun through Canada over the summer and then back down the East Coast. And then this voyage heads to Europe and to South Africa. So
wow.
I will be gone for 4 years.
How exciting. Your goal at the end will be?
The goal at the end is for Bliss Out to build its own retreat center. We are retiring to Curacao. The goal is to build a palliative center where people can birth and die with dignity. And so that is where we will end.
If I could just have 10% of your mindfulness, I think I could calm down a lot more in my life.
It's something I work at, and I think that's what people have to remember, is that it's something that we work at. It's something that I wake up every day and I'm intentional about, and it's a decision to choose you and joy and happiness.
Well, I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank
Good
you
luck
so
on
much.
your journey. Be careful, but you got your hubby with you.
Yes.
Have a wonderful time, and come back after 2 years and let us know how it went.
I will.
That'll be fantastic.
Will.
All right, and I'm going to send her some love because I want to today. I just want you to know I think you're gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
And I love your necklace.
Thank you.
You've got to tell me where you got that. I love her
you.
necklace. All right, and to Neri, let's do some love for you. You have a great day, Neri. practice the breathing. All right, so there, I sent my love.
Yes, you did.
Fantastic. Be sure to join us next time on the Health Channel, All Health All the Time on South Florida PBS. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at All Health TV, and be sure to use the hashtag All Health TV. Don't forget to check out our website. It's really fantastic, allhealthtv.com, where you can watch the Health Channel live stream and watch videos from previous episodes. I'm Olga Villaverde. Be mindful, be happy, send some love. Amor. We'll see you next time. Ciao.